Holy greetings to you, brothers and sisters, and God bless you. This is Scott Bradley. We're coming along with a snippet here today, something that the Lord has laid upon my heart, and I want to share it with you very briefly today. I first of all want to start this off by saying that the Lord has put something upon my heart, a series of teachings that we plan to do starting in the month of January as we are coming into a new year, 2023. Many of you followed my series that I did last year on spiritual warfare. It actually lasted, I think it was 4-hour sessions, 4 nights. I can't remember, in the month of October we did that. And the Lord has laid something upon my heart to share in the month of January on Christianity versus the cults or cultism or the spirit of cultism. We're going to deal with what specific cults, what is a cult, what caused it, what's behind it. And I will give you a brief synopsis here as we were building up to it, coming up to it. It's going to start on January 11th, which is a Wednesday night, 7 p.m. And I think we're going to run it over 3 weeks. So it'll be every Wednesday, starting January 11th and the next 2 Wednesdays following. So we should come pretty much to the close of the end of January. Again, 1 night a week, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. But one of the things that has prompted me to do this is because I'm looking at the day and time that we're living in, the increase of spiritual activity and the rise of false prophets. We're going to be dealing on that subject, and I certainly am looking forward to it, and certainly want you to look forward to it. And then, of course, after we do each broadcast, they will remain on our Facebook Live page. And eventually, once we complete the series, then we will be placing them in our Rivers of Life online school of ministry as another lecture series. Now, I want to encourage you that have not to please visit our website, Scott Bradley Ministries.vpweb.com. That's all one word, Scott Bradley Ministries.vpweb.com. Go to our online school of ministry. There we have about 24 lessons, I believe, or 25 lessons. And you can enroll in the School of Ministry. Now, we're going to be setting that up very soon. And we don't have it set up for enrollment as of yet, but we are going to be getting that together very soon. You'll be able to take those classes for credit, receive a certificate upon completion. But in the School of Ministries, we also have a series of lectures that you can view. Of course, you can view all of this anytime. And among those, we already have the Spiritual Warfare series, and we're going to be doing the Christianity versus Cultism series. Now, again, we've done this all across the countries. We've done this in conventions, convocations, church services. And so I feel impressed to minister that in a series of lectures coming up on Facebook Live starting January 11th. That's on Wednesday night, and every Wednesday night for the next 2 Wednesday nights following, 7 p.m. And afterwards, they'll be on our Facebook Live. And then, of course, they will be posted permanently in the School of Ministry. Now, I want to speak on the subject of marriage. You know, this morning, brothers and sisters, I was in prayer and meditation, and a scenario came to my mind. I was really deep in thought. I don't know if you would call it a vision or a scenario that the Lord placed in my mind. But it went like this. In fact, it probably has happened. I say probably because I've been in ministry now, as you know, approaching 48 years, and a lot of things have happened down through the years. This has probably happened at one time or another in my time of ministry. But this particular scenario came to me. And in this scenario, I was doing a prayer line, and someone had come through the prayer line and said to me, "Preacher, will you pray for me? I want to get pregnant." The young lady came, of course, I would like to get pregnant. And so I said to her, "Where's your husband? Have him come up and we'll pray for you all together." And her response was, "I do not have a husband." I said to her, "How do you expect to get pregnant and you're not married?" Well, the answer to that is obvious. Well, come to find out, she was living with a man, but they are not married. You know, this is becoming a common scenario in this 21st century. And even in the church, some of you that are in the church, you're living in fornication. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, or how many people do it, or what the society says, or how the culture is changed. God's way is still right. God honors marriage. God has no respect to living in fornication, because that's what you're doing when you're living together as husband and wife, but you are not married. Marriage that God honors is a pledge, an exchange of vows, and there's legal precedent for it. You have to, in this country we live in, it has to be legalized with a license. And I've had people argue me, say, well, we don't need a license to exchange the vows. God honors the rules and the laws of the land. In fact, the Bible tells us to obey the laws of the land, particularly when it comes to something as sacred as marriage. Now, marriage is a sacred institute, but let me throw a little bit in here to you all, especially you young ladies, because I see a scenario with many of our young men, unfortunately, and I'm sad to say this about many of our young men, but anytime you have your own place, you have your own house, you have your own apartment, and he comes in and lives with you, right away, that's a sign that he has nothing. He's just going to leech off of you. And in many cases, as I've seen these scenarios happen over and over again, and certainly the fella's lazy, he won't work. He's, into drugs. He's always borrowing money from you without even borrowing money from you. He says he's borrowing, but he don't pay it back. He's driving around in your car while you work every day. I always thought about the young lady years ago when I was working a particular company, and there was a young lady there, very pretty, and I always remember her because she's a very pretty young lady. Her name was Bonita. Bonita was a nice young woman, had everything going for her, had a job, had a nice car, and this fella who lived with her had no job, had no prospects. Just laid around all day as far as I could tell. I didn't goes too deep in the business, but it didn't look good where I was standing. He would bring her to work every day in her car. She had a nice car. She had a job. She had a lot going for her. Bring her to work every day in her car, drop her off, and then he'd drive off in her car and wouldn't come back around until it's time to pick her up. So while she worked all day, he did whatever he did, which probably was not a lot of anything, anything respectable at least. And who knows where else his mind was wandering. Young ladies, don't be foolish. Don't be stupid. Don't take in somebody. Okay, how much you say he loves you and how much if the man really loved you, he would marry you. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to give you a little insight on this. And some of y'all might not like what I'm saying. That's okay. You'll get it after a while. What a man does when he moves in with you, shacks up, that's the term we used to use. When he shacks up with you and won't marry you, basically what he is saying to you is, I'm going to deal with you until something better comes along. Because if another woman comes along or he decides he wants to, quote unquote, cheat, which, that's up for debate, or goes with somebody else, first thing he says, well, we're not married anyway. He will always have that card to play. Pull that card. We're not married anyway. When there is a marriage, there is a commitment. The Bible says marriage is honorable in all, and the bed is undefiled. But young man, young woman, if you are living in together as husband and wife and you're not married, you're living in fornication in the eyes of God. Men, women, if you got a side chick or a side piece and you're supposed to be married, you have an adulterous affair. These things God is going to judge. The old folk had a saying, there is no right way to do the wrong thing. And so I want to admonish you. Now, you're looking at an individual here who's been married 41 years to the same woman. We married young. I was 23. She was 22. We had only known each other, and this is really a testimony. We had only known each other 6 months, and we got engaged. And after 9 months, we were married. We hadn't even known each other for a year, but that's just how the Lord worked it out in my life. And incidentally, no, she was not pregnant. Let me make that clear. Why'd y'all get married so quick? Was you trying to beat the baby? No, my first son didn't come along until 4 years later. So she was not pregnant, so don't get that idea. But what am I saying? Marriage is what God honors. And it doesn't matter how many people are shacking up, how many people are saying it's okay, how many people are declaring we're married in God's eyes, even though you have never purchased a license and have exchanged vows before witnesses. Because again, for marriage to be valid, there should be witnesses. And isn't it interesting, ladies and gentlemen, that Jesus' first miracle was at a wedding when he turned the water into wine. Do things right. Now, again, I'm saying this because I know the world does this, but in the church, you should not be up there singing in the choir and you're shacking up. You should not be up there deacon on the deacon board and ushering and shouting and dancing in the church and you're shacking. You're wrong. And God's going to judge you. And you're not going to heaven with that in your life. Get it together, get it straight. God's way is right. God's way is best. And I can tell you from experience, after 41 years of being married to the same woman, that when you do things God's way, it will always bring positive results. God bless. I hope you're blessed. We're blessed by this today. Looking forward once again to our series, Christianity vs. Cultism, starting on January the 11th, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. You'll be hearing more information as the time approaches. God bless.